So that being said, let's move to resolution number 24, which is entitled A9 and A96 dualling. To move the resolution, please welcome Councillor Jeremy Fernandez. He will be followed by David Burkett.
Hello again, conference. I brought a bit of an antique with me today. It's the SNP's 1990 Grampian Region Manifesto, where we state we support the full dualling of the A9 and the A96. So before devolution and before the Tories or Labour were even interested, we were the first to listen to local communities and identify how vital these roads are for the North and North East. We can be really proud of that. A lot has happened since, and we are now in government. So let's get on with it. Let's get on with dualling both roads. When our activists go knock on doors, the number one issue for the people of the North and Northeast is the dualling of these roads. And it's easy to understand why. These roads are not just stretches of tarmac. They are arteries of connectivity and progress. They serve as vital conduits connecting the Highlands and the northeast of Scotland to the rest of the country. Yet these vital arteries have been plagued by congestion, accidents, and lost economic opportunities. First and foremost, the dualling of these roads will save lives. We are tired of opening the papers every week and reading about accidents. And it's not always the road, but dark roads, no passing lanes for miles on end. Confusing layouts sure don't help. We cannot put a price on saving lives. This investment will also be a catalyst for economic growth. It will provide businesses in the north with better access to markets, making the region more attractive for investment. The dualling will create jobs, stimulate local economies, and boost Scotland's overall economic resilience. Finally, and I can't stress this enough, it will reduce our carbon footprint. Better roads help cut down on emissions by reducing the time vehicles spend idling in traffic. On a bad day, it can take 30 minutes to drive across small towns like Elgin or Nairn. That's 1.5 miles. It's not even 2 miles. Efficient transport systems are essential for Scotland to reach its net zero targets. The SNP has made the commitment to dualling both roads, and we must ensure we fulfill it. We cannot afford to waver on this promise. People here would not forgive us. And we're not asking for the moon here. We just want the same standards of road links other parts of Scotland take for granted. We need detailed plan, timelines, and a clear allocation of resources. The people of the Highlands, of Moray, of Aberdeenshire and Aberdeen have waited long enough for this time. The time for action is now. Please support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. And to second resolution 24, please welcome David Burkett from Peterhead branch. David will be followed by Councillor Gwyneth Petrie.
My colleagues at Peterhead branch were very proud to support this resolution from our colleagues at Elgin, and delighted to have the opportunity to second the resolution. Because Peterhead and Elgin have a lot in common. We're both communities that are quite poorly connected to transport infrastructure. Now, my friends, you may recall the first resolution we approved at last year's conference was re-railing the North East. I'm glad to report that things are moving along, but for too long, both our areas have been poorly connected to transport infrastructure and very cut off from the transport networks that more urban areas may take for granted. Conference, if any of you drove here today, you'll have more than likely driven on that final leg here on the Aberdeen-Weston peripheral route, or as we call it locally, the AWPR. Passes very close to the venue. Having worked on that project, I can tell you that the route was first drawn for that in 1952. 1952. So, well, that project could and should have been delivered by a Westminster government decades ago. I'm proud that it was actually delivered by an SNP-led Scottish government, and we should all be proud of that too. And I have to drive 26 miles before I even get to the start of the AWPR. But even at that distance, I cannot begin to tell you how transformational that has been for my community. Our community's appreciation for the benefits of the AWPR show that it won't be just Perth and Inverness and Aberdeen that benefit from the A9 and 96 projects being completed. But every community along and in between and in proximity to the routes will benefit too. But, Conference, I regret that we're even having to have these discussions because we have previously committed to this project, and as Jeremy just pointed out, sometimes it was decades ago. Now, our opposition have got to turn this project into a bit of a political football. And I'm afraid, my friends, we've given them too much possession in this game. So, SNP Elgin and SNP Peterhead propose that we tackle them and we take possession of that ball and stick it in the back of the net. Many UK governments have let down the North East and Moray, and we have an opportunity today to make sure that our SNP-led Scottish Government doesn't join that long and undistinguished list of let-down governments. And we avoid that fate very simply. We avoid it by keeping our promises. So please support the resolution. Our branch is very proud to second it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. Our next speaker on Resolution 24 is Councillor Gwyneth Petrie, who will be followed by Emma Roddick, MSP. Welcome to Gwyneth.
Good afternoon, Conference. I've been a member of the party now since my university days. I've worked in parliamentary offices for 14 years. I've been an elected councillor now for 7 years. And throughout that time, there are two party staples that I've somehow managed to avoid. The first is an SNP Burns supper. If anyone asks, I'm busy next year. And the second is speaking at conference. But this resolution is too important for me not to rise to speak to it, because the impact of not dualling these roads is so hugely damaging to the economic future, not just of my ward, but the entire North East region, that we must ensure we deliver on this long-awaited manifesto commitment. My colleague in Moray has already covered the current impact on some of the towns there because of the positioning of the road. I live in Huntly in Aberdeenshire. It sits within my ward and it sits right on the A96. Development in Huntly has been continuously hampered by the delay on the A96 dualling moving forward. There's been minimal house building because of uncertainty over the road plans and the time it takes to get to either Aberdeen or Elgin for work, for college, for school. This is a huge deterrent to families considering a move to the town, and it has seen families move out of the area. SIMD figures in Huntly and the surrounding areas are going in the wrong direction, and we need to change that. We have to provide the infrastructure to provide residents with all the possibilities afforded to those living in other parts of Scotland. The other main driving force between the need to dual the road has been mentioned, and that's safety. I've heard suggestions previously of average speed cameras to improve the safety. I drive on this road every week. I drove here today behind the standard 4 HGVs, 3 caravans, 2 tractors and the ever-dreaded horse box. Delegates, the majority of the cars on that road don't get to the speed to be caught by the safety cameras, by the average safety cameras, or to improve the safety on the road. It is dangerous for other reasons. And the dualling of this road, along with the improvements it will bring to the design and junctions along it, will immeasurably improve the safety of all who use it. Now, I stand fully behind the ongoing encouragement for the increase in the use of public transport, but the reality is, given the geography of Aberdeenshire, Moray, the Highlands, there will always be a requirement for cars. And the hope is that my constituents move to electric cars, but those cars will still require modern and up-to-standard roads to drive along. Conference, we in the North East aren't asking for the dualling of these roads as a nice-to-have or an added extra. We're saying it is absolutely imperative that these vital infrastructure developments go ahead to secure and enhance our economies, and most importantly, to ensure that no more lives are lost. And I implore you to support the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gwyneth. Our next speaker speaking for Resolution 24 will be Emma Roddick, MSP, to be followed by Pete Wishart, MP.
Thank you. Hello, conference. We are not changing party policy with this resolution today. It probably doesn't need to be on the agenda, but I'm very glad that it is, because it's an opportunity for us to show that this is party policy. It is, as the resolution states, an unwavering commitment by the SNP and something that the Scottish Government continues to work on. Now, some try to use this issue to break up the Scottish Government, to do away with the Butte House Agreement, and please do not make the mistake of thinking that people do this to strengthen us. It can only weaken us. That is why the Tories get so chuffed when they can use SNP quotes to throw at us at FMQs. And more importantly, it is creating division where none exists. The Scottish Government is still committed to these projects, and I hope that today's conference decision can reassure people that the wider SNP is as well. I'm not a Green, I am SNP, and I'm a person who wants action on climate change, and these projects are not in opposition to that. I don't want these road improvements because I think all roads need to be dualled and that we shouldn't be discouraging unnecessary car use. We should. But it's that folk like my wee sister, a carer in the Highlands, need to use a car to do their job. And we have to show that we're able to recognise the different situations that people living in rural areas face travelling around. And that in places like Nairn and Elgin, the roads are actually causing pollution and congestion in the town centres, discouraging people from making use of active travel because it's unpleasant and, frankly, unsafe. It's also about more than a road. This is about fulfilling a commitment made to the Highlands. There is real pain in the losses that we've felt when we lose lives on that road. But there's also real pain in the perception, the belief that there's been a broken promise. My constituents are being led to believe that the SNP doesn't really care about the A9 and the A96. So please help us today to be clear that this is not true, that the promise remains and action will continue. So please all stick your hands up when you're asked to pass this resolution and reassure my constituents that the SNP is the party for the Highlands.
Thank you very much, Emma. Our next speaker speaking for Resolution 24 is Pete Wishart MP, who will be followed by Rodri Griffiths speaking against. Welcome, Pete.
Thank you ever so much, conference, and good morning. I've been the MP for the southern part of the A9 for over 20 years. I've lived with this as an ever-present feature and a concern of my constituents for all that time. I remember, as a new Member of Parliament back in 2001, when 3 generations of an Israeli family were killed for making a mistake on the then notorious Ballinluig junction. I said at that point that I will do everything possible to ensure that that road has been made safe. I also lived in Dunkeld for a number of years, one of the most dangerous and probably most notorious junctions that we have on the southern A9. So if anybody's ever experienced trying to get on the A9 from Dunkeld and Burnham, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I've lived cheek by jowl with this road for such a long time. So I will take no lectures of anybody who's hoping to play political games with the dualling of the A9. We'll get down to the business of fixing it. Now, there has been a number of improvements in my constituency. The section between Lunkerty and the Pass of Burnham has been done. And if you have a look at the bottom of the A9, you'll see a little junction going off. That's the Crosstay Link Road, which is going to open up East Perthshire and have a new route to the northeast. Things are being done and roads are being built. But this isn't an easy project. The A9 dualling is perhaps one of the most intricate and sophisticated pieces of infrastructure that we've ever undertaken. Communities need to be consulted, planning needs to be done, and we have to ensure we do this properly. And I want to speak a little bit just about the speaking to communities, because sometimes we forget them in all of this. I've got the Killiecrankie battlefield in my constituency. That took an awful lot of time to ensure that the all the issues around that heritage site were looked after. I know the efforts that the people in Dunkeld are making to get a roundabout in place, and things are getting done. But conference, we have to move on from this. I get sick and tired of listening to the Tories constantly bringing this up in Parliament as if they own the issue. It is us that has been the first government that's ever pledged to dual the A9 in its entirety, and that's been a pledge that's been there. The time is now to meet it and fulfil it. It's time to get a timetable for all the sections to be upgraded, and we have to see that in the autumn. Now, I want that road to be made safe. I want that pledge that we gave to our constituents to be met. So please support this motion, and let's please get on with making this road safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pete. And our final speaker on Resolution 24, speaking against the resolution, please welcome Rodri Griffiths.
Good afternoon, Conference. Prynawn da chi. I'm the second Welsh person to speak after Rhyn ap Iorwerth, and so there are 2 Welsh people here as well as 2 Kentish people. And I'm new to the area, I make no apologies for that. So perhaps I can offer the perspective of somebody who's come from, I was living in the southern part of Britain before moving up here, and obviously originally from Wales. This is clearly an environmental issue. It's a contentious issue. I know there are people, well, certainly younger people, who are concerned about we should all be concerned about the climate catastrophe. It's an overwhelming issue. And the transition to net zero is something that we've really got to get to terms with. So this is something that I really think we should look at our priorities very carefully. Personally, I don't believe this should be party policy. It may have been party policy for a long time, but that in itself proves that we should be questioning it. This is road building is it's a way of problem solving that belongs to the past, to the 1950s, to the 1960s. We just look around us here, look at the amount in this area, the amount of tarmac and concrete there is. This is not the approach we should be taking now. We should be looking for a greener, a more environmentally friendly approach. The answer to connectivity, and I was very impressed by the points that were being made by Tracy Little from Dumfries yesterday. If we want to really improve connectivity, we really should be looking at the railways. This is the modern way forward. We should be reopening lines like the Dumfries to Stranraer line. It's good that the line to Fraserburgh and Peterhead is going ahead. This is the way forward. But road building is not the answer. It's and previous speakers have talked about accidents. It's not the fact that the road isn't dualled all the way. It's not to do with the road infrastructure that's causing the accidents. It's the drivers. It's the way that people are driving. So there are other ways to approach this problem, and I know it's something that it may well be unpopular on the doorstep, but I don't think we're not a populist party. I don't think populism is the approach we should be looking for. It's what is progressive, what suits the planet, what suits the environment, and as far as I can see, this just isn't the way forward. So anyway, I hope many of you will agree with me. I'm sure if there were more younger people here, and I'm certainly not young, they'd be agreeing with me. But I really don't believe that the dualling of the A9 and the A96 is the way forward. So I hope you'll join me and vote against this motion. Thank you, Conference. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Rodri. So, Conference, I wonder if the mover, Jeremy Fernandez, feels the need to sum up, or if he would like to waive that. is waving that. Thank you very much. So we will move now to voting on Resolution 24. So can I ask that all those in favour of Resolution 24 raise your cards now, please. Thank you very much. Cards down. All those against, raise your cards now. Thank you very much. Cards down. Resolution number 24 passes overwhelmingly. Thank you.